Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And today, my very special guest is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole, Dr. Huberta Jackson-Lowman. And our topic is community healing circles, community healing circles. I think the community absolutely can use some healing right about now with all of what is going on in the world today with our new leadership. Mm. With everything. So we are going to dive in and it's going to be a great conversation. But before I introduce her and bring her on, I need to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? Let us know. Put your city and state in the comments so we can give you a shout out. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And this is an interactive conversation. So your comments, your questions are very much so welcome. And this is a safe space for us to engage with one another. So I see Brother Juanito Wilburn here in Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us, Brother Juanito. Sister Kesey Williams, who's also here in Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us. So please, y'all, like, share, tag a friend, tell them they need to be part of this conversation because I guarantee you it's going to be a great one indeed. All right, I am going to go ahead and share some of Dr. Huberta's bio. She has an extensive bio. She is Professor Emerita of Psychology and past chair of the Department of Psychology at the Florida Agricultural and Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, go Rattlers, in Tallahassee, Florida, where she taught graduate and undergraduate studies. She has a doctorate in clinical psychology from the University of Pittsburgh, a Fulbright Hayes Scholar and editor of the anthology African American Women Living in the Crossroads of Race, Gender, Class, and Culture. Her doctoral career spans over 40 years and has consisted of roles in both the private and public sectors. She's a past president of the National Association of Black Psychologists, serving from 2017 to 2019. She's certified through the Association of Black Psychologists as a diplomat and fellow in African-centered psychology. Y'all, her bio goes on and on and on. Okay, so just know that she has an extensive bio. I'm not going to read everything, but I'll share some of the last things. As an emerging area of focus research, she uses the cultural standards and policy to reset standards and norms and trouble Black communities and foster a sense of agency and empowerment. She is also senior coaching consultant with the Ori Ray Oracles Coaching and Consulting, a priestess of Obatala and the Lukumi African spiritual system. And she is a wife, mother of 3 adults, a grandmother of 9, and godmother. So y'all help me welcome Dr. Huberta Jackson-Lowman. Yay!
Greetings. Thank you very much for inviting me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I mentioned you not being a stranger to Conversations with Nicole, but for those who don't know, you were actually on season 3 which was back in 2017.
Oh, wow.
2017. That was the first time you were on. You've been on since then, but that first conversation was around fatherlessness, and you spoke specifically about like the psychology of women and some of the things that we can do to support fathers in the community. And so that conversation still resonates with me today because that was such a very important conversation. So I'm super excited and delighted to have you with me tonight.
Glad to be here.
Indeed, indeed. So tell the people, who is Dr. Huberta Jackson-Lowman? Not what you do, but who are you?
Okay. Yes, such deep questions.
Yes.
All right. I am spirit,
Hmm.
um, now manifesting as Huberta Jackson. I am the daughter of Emma Martin Jackson and Hugh Jackson. And my parents ascended from Carrie Burt Martin, Lafayette Martin, Maud Gray Jackson, and Joe Jackson, who ascended from Lafayette and Mary Martin, Jackson Burt and Ellen Burt, Lafayette Jackson and Laura Snow Jackson, and Richard and Martha Gray. And Richard and Martha Gray ascended from Cornelius and Sally Gray, who ascended from Jordan and Jeanette Gray, and many, many others whose names I don't yet know.
Okay.
But that is the blood that flows through my veins. And those are the shoulders that I am standing on. And hopefully, I will represent well. You know, as you said, I am a mother, a wife, a grandmother, sister, aunt, godmother. The talents that I've been blessed with, I use them primarily as a teacher, as a healer, as a writer, and as a priestess, I am, as you indicated, a priestess in the Yoruba system of Obatala. And Obatala is one of the deities in the Yoruba system that is associated with the wisdom of elders and ethical behavior. I was crowned by my godmothers, Penelope Stubbs, also known as Oshungeri Abekunle, and Juana Manrique Claudio Omiyinka. I'm somebody who loves art and music and dance, and I'm committed to my continued, I'd say, growth and development, and to using the talents and gifts that I've been blessed with to uplift my community, to help us to reach our traditional greatness as African people. And I would say also to revitalize the values that have sustained us for thousands of years. So that's who I am.
Beautiful. I love that you can just call your lineage out in such a way that's very beautiful. So thank you for sharing who you are. I appreciate that. So we have several folks that have joined us. I definitely want to take a moment to acknowledge them. Mr. Kari Harrison, who's here in Tallahassee and was on with us last week. Thank you for joining us. We have Ricky Danzy in Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us. My mother is here, who's down in Miami. Thank you for
Mhm.
being here, Ma. Love you. And Miss Jeanette Tullis, who is a classmate of my mother's, a high school classmate of my mother's from Miami Gardens. So thank you for being here, Miss Jeanette. All right. So tell us a little bit, just before we dive into the topic, how you even got involved in the psychology space.
How I got involved in psychology?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, It actually goes back to high school.
Okay.
And I took a course in psychology in high school.
Uh-huh.
And I really loved that psychology course, even though it had nothing to do with who I was as a young girl of African ancestry.
Uh-huh.
But I loved it because I thought that it would help me to better understand my family. And
Nice.
so that was my whole thing. I wanted to understand my family. And then, of course, when I went to college, I majored in psychology
Mhm.
and continued to kind of study it and to really love and appreciate it because it helped me to understand not just myself and my family, but other people. And finally, went on after I graduated. I laid out for a year and decided that after working for a year in a job that really wasn't that exciting, that I really had to go back and get my master's degree, which I did, and then
Okay.
went on to get my doctorate in psychology. And
Nice.
so, it was just something that it appealed to my desire to understand first myself and to understand my family.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So let's dive in and just disclaimer, this is and you are a practicing psychologist from the standpoint of licensure or whatnot, even though you taught psychology, but this is not a counseling session. Okay, so just a little disclaimer for folks that are on here, but we are going to talk about community healing circles. So, give a little history, if you don't mind, for viewers who may not know who you are and some of the work that you've done about community healing circles. Give us a little bit of background around that.
Okay, so you'll probably remember that during the pandemic, when a lot of things were shut down and
Hmm.
people were not able to kind of get together in the ways that they typically were used to getting together. And so during that time, then the need for us to create spaces for people to kind of come together and to talk about what they were going through and what they were dealing with came about.
Hmm.
And so the Community Healing Network and the Association of Black Psychologists both established these virtual healing circles.
Hmm.
Now, actually, we had a Community Healing Network in particular had worked with the Association of Black Psychologists to develop what are called the emotional emancipation circles. And this occurred prior to the pandemic, and
Hmm.
they were being implemented uh, actually across the country and the world, but we
Okay.
were doing them in person. But as a result of the pandemic, the need for us to also make them available virtually came about. And
Gotcha.
so with that, they were established. But also, we recognize too that the availability of mental health practitioners to serve our community is extremely lacking,
Yeah.
and that we needed to be able to offer some other kinds of supports for people
Hmm.
who, and I should say, offer this caveat that this is not therapy.
Yes.
It is not therapy. However, it is therapeutic.
Right. 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 Right.
And so we recognized that we needed to create some other ways for people to be able to get the support and to come together to address some of the challenges that they were experiencing.
Mm.
And it really took off during the pandemic. And since then, we are returning also to in person spaces, along with engaging in the virtual kinds of healing circles as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. I see we have Chandra Brooks West, who has joined us. Thank you for being here. So there was you mentioned the emotional emancipation circles. Talk share just if you don't mind sharing a little bit about what that is.
Okay, so the Community Healing Network
Mm-hmm.
and the Association of Black Psychologists came together, and we developed a curriculum focus on debunking the myth of Black inferiority.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a myth that suggests that people of African ancestry have made no contributions of value to the world, that we are less intelligent, that we are criminal, that we are immoral, that we are less attractive, and other kinds of derogatory stereotypes and tropes that are associated with that. And we recognize that this myth, which has impacted all of our institutions in this country, and
Mm-hmm.
that is promoted throughout the world, actually, through the kinds of messages and images that are disseminated directly as well as indirectly, as well as our invisibility, and that those messages were uh, suggesting to the world that we were of less value, that we were underdeveloped, that we were maladjusted, that
Mm-hmm.
we were defective, and that we needed to do something to address this because the myth was not only affecting others outside of the race, but also impacting ourselves because some people actually injected this myth and
Mm-hmm.
actually began to believe it and to see themselves in a more defective kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
and other Black people. So we needed to address this. And as a result, this emotional emancipation circles were created with the goal of debunking the myth of Black inferiority and also helping us to embrace the truth about who we are. And and it's done, we use a structured curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
It is based upon the values of Ma'at, which are, for those who might not know, truth and justice and harmony and balance and order and propriety and reciprocity. And we have 7 keys. And so we are trying to help people to incorporate these keys into their lives, which are based on these values. And these values, the keys rather, address things like recognizing that we are divine,
Mm-hmm.
appreciating our history and our history beginning prior to our enslavement.
Yeah.
Going back to the very beginning and recognizing that we are the mothers and the fathers of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
appreciating our cultural roots. We also deal with uh, understanding the importance of the choices and the decisions that we're making and how they impact not only ourselves but other people, managing our emotions, recognizing the importance of community, and recognizing our spirituality. So, throughout the emotional emancipation circles, we are addressing those particular topics that will help us to begin to debunk the myth of Black inferiority and really appreciate who we are as people of African ancestry.
Nice. So, Emmanuel joined us. He said he was speaking about Black inferiority complex and how it affects with his with his wife last night. And so, for those of us that might be a kind of new concept, um, I think it's definitely worth diving into just a little bit deeper because maybe subconsciously this is taking place and we aren't even really recognizing it. Like we might believe that we don't have a Black inferiority complex, but we we may very well be um doing, thinking and feeling and behaving in a way that supports a Black inferiority complex, correct?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. And there are many ways that it's manifested in our community. I think probably one of the obvious ways is the fixation that we have in terms of skin color.
mm,
And colorism, unfortunately, still is something that is negatively impacting our community.
mhm,
And so we still, call each other names in relationship to color.
right.
Many people, and when I was teaching in my psychology of Black women course, when I would get to the subject of colorism, One of the things that I found, and I had classes that were primarily women,
Mm-hmm.
is that when we got to start to talk about standards of beauty, there would be this silence that would cover the room.
Mm,
And, and this was with women who had been very talkative prior to that. And
mm,
all of a sudden, they were very quiet. But there was a lot of pain that we had in relationships to issues around our beauty, our skin color, our hair texture, and those kinds of things. We
mm-hmm.
still play those games. We still say those kinds of things that are very hurtful and sometimes even traumatizing to us.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, we engage, I think, a lot of times in practices that are harmful to us. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's actual research that demonstrates the impact now of the use of certain chemicals on our hair,
Mm-hmm.
not just on our hair, but actually that they are absorbed underneath the scalp.
Mm,
Um, a coroner said a number of years ago, he asked someone, a woman, a black woman, about why he was finding some green substance under the scalps of black women.
mm-hmm.
And as it turned out, it was these chemicals that they had been placing on their head when they were getting their hair straightened or permed and those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
Um, so we have the issue of the colorism. We have the issue even of things like supporting our businesses.
Mm,
We often say the white man's ice is colder,
mm-hmm.
and that we will often not want to buy from us because of our feelings that the products are not of the same quality,
Right.
and we often also have distrust in relationship to supporting people that look like us in terms of things that have to do with business.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a couple of examples of how that uh, those feelings of inferiority can be expressed.
Okay. A few more folks have joined us. Frank Hill is here. Thank you for being here. Miss Tracy Golay also here. My sister Shayla just tuned in from Miami. Thank you for being here, Shay. I love you. Donda, who is also here, she says skin color comes to mind as an inferiority. Absolutely. So that's the colorism that we've been talking about. So I want to get the viewers involved. When you think about Black inferiority, what do you think of outside of skin color? Like, so that was one that was mentioned, but and that might be what you think of as well. But let us know in the comments when you think about Black inferiority complex. What do you think of? What are some examples of that? In addition to colorism or skin color, the light skin, dark skin trip that we take each other on. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. So yes, I think that we do have to definitely fight against that narrative because we've heard it about one another and we do tend to repeat that about one another, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's still, and the thing is it does get reinforced also because of the kinds of images that are presented in the media.
Yeah.
And so, seeing those kinds of images uh, tends to kind of reinforce the idea that lighter is better.
Mm,
Lighter is more beautiful. Lighter is more attractive. The closer to white you are, the more attractive you are.
yeah.
That kind of a thing. So, we have to really challenge that. We have to begin to look at the images of African people and how beauty was represented in African societies.
Mm,
And beauty was not just a physical concept,
mm,
beauty had to do with character. And so your behavior had more to do with whether or not you were considered beautiful or not.
yes.
And I think a lot of times when you get to know people, sometimes the people who at first may seem very beautiful, if their character is not positive,
Mm-hmm.
then the beauty starts to fade. But
Mm-hmm.
for people that you might not have necessarily seen as being beautiful, but who have a beautiful character, then you start to see them very differently.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right, we got a lot of comments here. So Donda mentioned facial features and oppression. Chandra, she said education or what's considered to be smart, quote unquote. Miss
Yes.
Jeanette said sometimes facial features may make one think of inferiority. Okay. Juanito said self hatred. Yes. All right. Miss Brittany just joined us. Thank you for being here, Brittany. Shayla said showing how smart you are and having that considered as acting white.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a really important one
Mm,
because that also indicates that we really don't know our history. We
mm,
don't know, many of our youth don't recognize that we were the ones that developed writing systems and mathematics and science, and we built these pyramids that they still are trying to figure out how did they do that.
right.
And, they're aligned with heavenly events. So because we don't know our history, we can be very susceptible to these ideas that if I am being smart or intelligent, then that means that I'm acting white. And
Yeah.
we have to work to really kind of dispel those kinds of ideas in our children and our youth.
Mhm. Emmanuel said, I think of folks who want to be closer to whiteness for either comfort or lack of true understanding of who we are. Ooh, that one makes me think of passing.
Yes.
Hmm. And when I say passing, for those who may not know,
Mhm.
it especially maybe back during emancipation, um, very fair complexion black folks could pass for white, and they did.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Kari, he said, here in the workplace, seeing rules that don't allow your hair to represent your culture.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Still true in some places. In fact, actually, I think we even have that issue at Florida A&M University, if you can believe that,
Mm,
the School of Business, that for a long time, um, uh, young Black women didn't were not to wear braids or cornrows or afros or anything of that sort. They had to have their hair straightened.
yeah. All right. Frank Hill said, so much energy is placed on the why it is like this, but not the how did it become like this. Hmm. Okay.
Good point, Frank Hill.
It is. It is a good point. All right. So let's talk, I guess, around like how do we put healing circles together? Because, this is a pretty heavy topic. And some of these things that we have said to others who look like us, as well as what we have said to ourselves. I believe Juanito mentioned self hatred, right? It's some of that stuff is so deeply rooted. And so what are your thoughts about like how we begin to deprogram and reprogram ourselves?
Some of that's going to happen, I think, just by us beginning to learn more about who we are,
Mm-hmm.
to study our history
Yeah.
and to study the ways that we did things, the kinds of values that we exhibited, those kinds of things I think will help. Um, in the healing circles, um, I think it's helpful for us to have a space that we feel is safe,
Mm,
that we can begin to talk about these things.
yeah.
Um, and one of the things that we have to do in order to create a healing circle that feels safe is to let people know, first of all, that they can talk freely and that the information that they share is confidential,
Mm,
and so that they can develop a sense of trust and
mm,
feel that they can openly share the things that have been troubling them, um, and without worrying about being judged or being bullied or being silenced or any of those kinds of things. So we have to create that kind of space for people to do that. And once we're able to establish that kind of space for people, then a lot of things can begin to happen that can be very helpful because people will start to share their stories. And when they share their stories, they often find that they're not by themselves,
Yeah.
that other people are experiencing similar kinds of challenges and difficulties in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
We had recently when the Tallahassee Community Healing Coalition implemented the Community Healing Days back in October.
Mm-hmm.
As a part of that, we do healing circles. And in the Black Women's Healing Circle, one of the women shared that she was dealing with issues of anxiety.
Mm,
And this was the first time she had ever shared this information. These were people that she did not know.
mm-hmm.
And once she shared that information, a number of people also said that they were also struggling with issues of anxiety.
Oh,
And
wow.
I also shared that that was an issue that I've dealt with.
Mm,
And so the opportunity to hear that she was not alone, that
mm-hmm.
other people also were dealing with this kind of issue, that also is a form of beginning to heal.
Yeah.
And it also, you can begin to see and learn from other people
Mm-hmm.
who have been through something similar. And that gives you a sense of hope. You know,
Yes.
they've been through it, they've come through it, they've been able to address it effectively. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm still struggling with it. So that means then that maybe I can overcome this as well.
Yes.
And they also have an opportunity to model the behaviors of other people who have, skills and
Mm,
that they may need to master, and they get a chance to practice and rehearse those things in the safety of the group. So all of these things then provide a sense, an opportunity for them to heal and to grow so they can address the issues and the challenges that they may have been struggling with by themselves.
yes. No, that's good. We have a few more folks that have joined us. One is Miss Lucky Thomas, who says, "Hey, Dr. Loman, I miss you."
Hi, Lucky. How are you?
All right. We are actually a little bit more than halfway through our talk. So, for those of you who may be just tuning in, I'm on with Dr. Huberta Jackson-Lowman. We're talking about community healing circles. Some of the meat of this conversation has been around debunking the myth of Black inferiority complex. And some of the viewers have been so wonderful to share some of their thoughts about what that means. Emmanuel has a question. He said, "How can we break through to those who believe they're hated, that they don't recognize for their own race is beneficial to us?" So, how can we break through to those who believe their hatred that they don't recognize for their own race is beneficial to us?
Well, that can be very challenging for real to
Mm,
try to get through to people.
yeah.
And I think that the examples that we provide are probably the most effective ways to kind of get through people.
Mm,
To be able to demonstrate that you do love yourself, that you do love other people of African ancestry. I think that sends a message in and of itself.
mhm.
And also, I don't think we can beat people down to the point where they actually will just begin to recognize and accept that.
Yeah.
Um, and as I said before, I think part of this has to do with our lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
If we don't know about all the phenomenal things that we have done as people of African ancestry, then and we are only receiving the information that perhaps is being presented to us in the schools and the educational systems that we're in,
Right.
then we are more likely to develop these kinds of feelings, to have those kinds of feelings um, take root within us. So reading, allowing people to read stories. Toni Morrison has a book called The Bluest Eye, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a really beautiful story about a girl who actually was dealing with her own injected oppression, if you will,
Mm,
her self-hatred. And it's I think it's very moving, very touching. It can help people sometimes to see themselves. And so reading fiction as well as nonfiction
yeah.
is very helpful, I think, in addressing that.
So let me ask you this. How important is it, in your opinion, for us to study our history?
And that's just fundamental. That
Mm,
is fundamental. I mean, the thing is that it's really insane to me that when people say that slavery's in the past, we should just be over that.
mhm,
Because history is, without history, we don't know who we are. I mean, that's just fundamental. You
mhm,
know, if I didn't even know the history of me yesterday, who would I be today?
mm,
Everything that we do is really kind of grounded in history.
yeah.
I mean, the environment that we live in is based on history. So
Mm,
how was this environment created? Who created this environment? Now,
yeah.
all this has to do with history. When you go to a doctor's office, what is the first thing they do? They
Yeah.
take a history.
That's history, right?
Exactly. So, we don't have an existence without a knowledge of our history.
Hmm. Okay. Frankel said the community healing circles are such an important system of liberation.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. And, we have to free our minds first before we can be free. I mean,
mm,
because as we know, the physical freedom is not really freedom if your mind is still imprisoned, incarcerated by these concepts and beliefs in our inferiority.
absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, okay. So, how can we get here? I mean, I know you said definitely safe space, no bullying, not being silenced, being heard, but how can we get there?
Well, we got to take a step.
Okay.
you know, we got to be willing to step out and take a risk, kind
Mhm.
of thing. That's, there's not any growth. You don't grow if you're not willing to take a risk,
Yeah.
you know. And so I think that's really the first thing
Mhm.
is just to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and to go ahead and take that step. And it's a lot easier, I think, for women than it is for men, um, for us to do it because we're more used to coming together and talking together in our little girl circles and things of that sort.
Mhm.
Um, this year, the men, I think, were really great. They got together, they did it too, but we've always had difficulties getting men together. But
Yeah.
this year, in our men's healing circle, we had a nice sized group of men who came together and had a great conversation around how they need to heal.
Good.
And, the healing circles, they can be constructed in a number of different ways.
Okay.
We have constructed them um, along gender lines. So we have a women's healing circle, we have a men's healing circle, and then we actually had a mixed circle for the youth.
Okay.
But they can be constructed in a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
In our emotional emancipation circles, they tend to be open to people of both genders, uh, all genders, I should say, because are dealing with more than one at this point.
Mhm.
And also to across the age spectrum, adults, but across the age spectrum, because we believe that the intergenerational experience can be even more beneficial to be able to hear from elders as well as youth, and for us to be able to learn from each other.
So I have actually found that to be the case with some of the events that I did last year that were women focused. And the women in the room typically range from mid 20s to mid 70s. And it was just magical to hear from both, to hear the younger generation hear from the older, and the older hear from the younger. So,
Absolutely.
mm, yeah. So a few more folks have joined us. Coach Anna, who's in the Central Florida area, she said, becoming uncomfortable. She said, good evening from Oviedo. Thank you for being here. And Dr. Anika Fields is joining us, who is the director of counseling center at FAMU. Thank you for
Oh,
joining.
greetings, Dr. Anika.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, Anita said we have to take off the shackles of self-hatred. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Whew. So, but it also requires us to have some folks that are capable of holding space for people, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And so we do have training that we do. The Association of Black Psychologists does training for facilitators, and the Association of Black Psychologists healing circles are called Sawubona healing circles.
Okay.
Sawubona is a Zulu term, and it means that I see you. But
Mm,
it's not just I see you physically, it's
mhm,
I see you, the depths of who you are.
mm,
And so it's a much more profound concept. And so we offer training in relationship to implementing those. And we also offer training in terms of implementing the emotional emancipation circles. And you
mhm.
don't have to be a psychologist or a counselor, but you just have to be someone first who loves Black people, who's willing to learn and take the training.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Wow. Um, so typically with the community healing circles, approximately how long do they last in time, and for how many weeks or months or what have you?
That can vary, because depending upon what the need is. I mean, you may have ongoing community healing circles.
Okay.
And I do think there is a need for that to have a space where people can know that they can always come whenever they need to come.
Mm,
Sometimes we have short term community healing circles.
mm,
They could be just for several weeks or
okay,
several months or something of that sort. But it just varies depending upon what the need and what the interest happens to be.
gotcha. Okay. And typically how long are the sessions normally?
They can vary. That can vary also, but I would say minimally an hour and a half,
Okay.
but usually between an hour and a half and 2 hours,
Okay.
because people need that time in order to be able to. You don't want to feel rushed and to
Mm,
have to cut people off. You want to have enough time for people to, and for everybody in the circle to have an opportunity to speak.
yes. Okay. All right. Frankel said, how can more people become involved with the community healing circles?
Well, that's why we're here
Yeah,
to try
right.
to encourage more people to get involved.
Yes.
There's a real need for this in our community. Um, we don't often recognize that we're dealing with the stress of not only the contemporary challenges and issues that we are facing, but
Mm-hmm.
also we carry the stress
Yeah.
from our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And that chronic stress has an impact on us physically and mentally and emotionally, and
Mm-hmm.
it can contribute to changes in the functioning of our brain and
Yeah.
our genes because it is transmitted intergenerationally.
Mm.
And then that can lead to other issues. They have a phenomenon called weathering, which is simply the repeated exposure to socioeconomic adversity and
Mm.
political marginalization,
Mm.
to racism and discrimination. And that leads to things like organ failures, health disparities that we see, and premature death.
Mm.
And so, whether we recognize it or not, all of us have been affected by these traumas and stressors of our ancestors, and they may still be impacting us in various ways that we may or may not recognize.
Yeah. No, Very good point. Um, Donda wants to know, are private sessions offered?
Private sessions. Well, I mean, private sessions, are you talking about like therapy? Certainly, there are people who offer therapy, and, I do private sessions in terms of coaching, but those are the community healing circles that we do. There's no cost to that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the private sessions, probably there would be a cost associated with those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But the circles, at this particular point, we're not charging anything for them.
Hmm. And you know, the private sessions would kind of defeat the purpose of it a little bit, because really the purpose is for the group to come together and to, um, you know, there be this commonality, recognizing that you're not alone. There are other people that are experiencing similar, um, thoughts, feelings, that sort of thing, as you are. We have
Absolutely.
Latina, who is with us from She Speaks Solutions down in Tampa. She said, "Good evening. Agreed. These sessions are beautiful and needed." Thank you for being here, Tina. And Coach Anna said, "Amen. Generational grief and trauma is a real and present danger to the next generation." Indeed. So Coach Anna is a grief guru. And so she talks a lot about grief and our need to grieve, on a regular basis. Mm,
Great. Wonderful.
yes, 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 yes. So I'm thinking about anything else that we missed. Any more benefits that you want to talk about, that community healing circles provide to the collective?
Hmm. Well, I think I mentioned that, this is a space where people can share their stories, because a lot of times, well, I think I said that earlier. A lot
Mhm,
of times people have not had safe spaces where they could talk about the things that are going on in their lives.
mhm,
And that is such a tremendous benefit for people to be able to do that. And as I said, there is, and I was trying to think, mention, just an opportunity to learn from other people in the other circle, or to get feedback. I don't think I mentioned that.
mhm.
Um, we Giving feedback can often be a challenging kind of process to, we oftentimes don't know how to give feedback to people, and to give it in ways that can be heard and that won't feel hurtful.
Yeah.
Um, and That feedback can be very important in terms of helping people to recognize things that they may be doing that might be contributing to the challenges and difficulties that they're experiencing in their lives. So when you have a space that people feel safe in, that
Mm,
they can be their authentic selves, and that they're not going to be judged and put down for the things that they're sharing, then
yeah.
they can begin to offer that kind of feedback and support to each other.
Hmm. Indeed. I think Chandra
And I
said,
think, I guess another thing I should mention too is that um, as we begin to come together and address these kinds of issues, the next level is actually us being able to look at how do we work together in our community to address the issues and challenges that exist within our communities.
hmm,
Because the healing is not just for our own personal benefit, it's so
yes.
that we can be better and
Mm,
function better within our families and within our communities, and help to make these spaces spaces where our children, elders, and everybody can thrive.
absolutely. Chandra said community spaces provided a space of accountability. And I think maybe she meant community circles. Provide a space of accountability. We owe it to ourselves to give gentle feedback. Yes, agreed. So I want to pull, the listeners in this conversation now again. What issue, topic, I don't know. What do you think? we need healing? What do you think in the community needs healing? Just let us know in the comments. It could be, I don't know, something around uh, employment or food sources, healthcare, education. It could be around a number of things. So just name maybe one or two things that you think we need to work on healing as a collective. Let us know. I'm curious. What do you all think? What do you all think? I tell you, one thing that I am concerned about is the food sources. As we look at some of the diseases that are, uh, taking place right now. And I really would love to see us get back to more community gardening. We do have some of that in pockets here in Tallahassee, but really, you know, maybe folks doing some more concentrated growing of different food sources. Because I think it's gonna become even more critical with some of what is being proposed by, again, this administration with tariffs and
Mhm.
deportation of people and all of these sorts of things. So it's yeah. Anyway.
Absolutely. And the benefit is not just in terms of the nutritional value of the foods that we get from doing our own gardening, which is something I've been saying I'm going to be do for quite a while. Um, but also just our connection with Earth.
Mm,
And that is something that is really healing.
yeah.
That we need to reestablish our connection with our environment.
Mm,
And one of the things that we observed in our community healing days, because we hold the healing circles, we held them outside in the gardens, uh, and it was a very healing space.
it
So
was.
being in the natural world is also healing. Touching earth is healing, and we need to do more of that because the kind of things that are happening today in terms of society, we're always in front of this, computers and our smartphones and or
Mm,
driving our cars. I mean, we're very disconnected in many ways, and that is a part of the issues that are contributing to the problems that we are having, the
mm,
disconnection we have. But making that connection with Earth is very important.
Indeed. All right. Tiffany said, definitely agree, Miss Nicole. Wonderful. So she also said anxiety, spirit of lack, and self esteem. Yes, those are all great. Uh, E said healing from collective anxiety and nihilism. I,
Hmm.
do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that's well. Let me just say, I think this is what they're talking about. It's just not believing in anything,
Mm,
nihilism. But
o-
maybe if I'm not
okay.
getting that
You may
accurate.
let us know if that's what you're talking about when you say nihilism. All right. Juanito said we need to restore the peace, unity, and love. Yes, agreed. Brother Solomon is with us. Thank you for being here. He said our people need to be healed from feeling that we have to be in competition with each other. Ooh, ooh,
Yes,
especially materialistically. Yes. Mm,
absolutely,
in-
absolutely.
indeed. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
All right. And Frank Hill, he said collective cooperation. Hmm. Yes. I was
So
thinking,
these are all very good comments that are being made. Um, the thing is that in order for us to be able to manifest them, we have to get over some of the issues that we are struggling with.
yes.
And that is, I think, what undermines our ability to have the collective cooperation, the peace, the unity, the love, those
Mm,
kinds of things.
mm,
And those are the things that I think that undermine a lot of our organizations and our institutions.
yeah.
And even the sense of competition
Mm,
that we have, and not being able to kind of come together to and work together to solve the problems that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we have, I think, definitely touched on a number of things, a lot of food for thought. Hopefully, some seeds have been planted and or watered tonight around community healing, around Black inferiority complex. And in just a moment, I know you're going to share how folks can connect with the Tallahassee uh, community healing circles that are gonna take place. We have a few more comments. Coach Anna said we must begin to acknowledge how our food source contributes to our long-term health, but also recognizing gardening, being outdoors in general, reduces stress, anxiety, it's grounding. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Absolutely. All right. Emmanuel came back and said nihilism, the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. Too many people believe that their lives and those that look like them have no meaning. Ooh, wow.
That's a very important statement that I think he's making. That
Mm,
because one of the things that is important for us is to recognize that we each have a divine purpose. That and I would tell my students a lot of times that nobody is here accidentally. A
yes.
lot of times people will say, well, you were just, your parents might say, well, you were an accident, but that's not really true. From
Yeah.
an African perspective, we don't believe that there are any accidents in terms of us being here, and
Yes.
that each of us has a unique divine purpose
Mhm.
that we come here to fulfill. And sometimes people don't understand or know or appreciate what that purpose actually is. And that contributes to that sense of meaninglessness in life.
Mhm.
Um, as a result of our, loss of a lot of our cultural traditions, African people um, would try to discern purpose of a child when they were born.
Mhm.
And so they had naming ceremonies and other kinds of activities that they engaged in,
Yeah.
rituals and things to engage in to discern exactly what the child's purpose actually was.
Mhm.
And then they would gear the parenting and the upbringing of that child to helping them to fulfill that purpose. And
Mhm.
even the naming of the child would often reflect whatever that purpose was. And
Yes.
so a lot of these kinds of traditions, as a result of the Ma'afa, which was the disaster of our enslavement, um, a lot of these traditions have been lost, and some of us are trying to retrieve them, but many of us are still, have not had access to them.
Mm. Okay. Wow. That no, I that was a new one. I had not heard that before, but I definitely can see how that has manifested in today's culture. And I think a big part of that too is a lack of knowledge of, definitely lack of knowledge of self, but also of history and on whose shoulders you are standing on, whose blood is running through your veins, right?
Absolutely.
That's important. All right. Well, we are wrapping up our conversation, but I do want to give you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and tell folks how they can connect with the community healing circles that will be taking place here in Tallahassee.
Okay. So you can connect with the Tallahassee Community Healing Coalition um, at our website. No, I'm sorry, not website, our Facebook page, which is Tallahassee Community Healing. You can email us at tallhealingdays@gmail.com if you're interested in the community healing circles, the emotional emancipation circles. And we also are going to be implementing a Black mental health book club. And so, and we'll be reading the book Grandma's Hands. You can, email us if you're interested in attending that. That will be a monthly activity. And I would like to close with a poem, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Um, and it's a poem that I wrote a number of years ago that I think that reflects some of the things that we've talked about this evening.
Okay.
And it's called That's Entertainment. Let me entertain you. Let me sneak into your head with images that titillate you, gold plated messages filled with lead. Let me entertain you. Let me give you laughter. Make what's wrong seem all right. Have a cup of pleasure while I distract you from the light. Let me entertain you. Let me take you on a journey far away from who you are, dazzle you with trivialities, glorify the bizarre, elevate insanity, give you lies and call it truth. Let me entertain you. Let me make you weak with passion, take away your self control. Let me siphon your compassion while I monetize your soul. Let me entertain you. Let me medicate and sedate you, give you thoughts designed to please, be a donor for confusion, inject your mind with disease. Let me entertain you. Let me entertain you. Let me snatch away your soul, fill your head with empty rhetoric, take your purpose and your goals. Let me entertain you. Let me entertain you. Let me ease your troubled mind. No more worries to agonize you. Make complacency divine. Let me entertain you. Let me entertain you. Let me be the dreams you seek. Follow me to La La Land. Now lay down and go to sleep. Thank you.
Listen, this is what they do with the poets, right? Instead of clap, clap. So, oh my gosh, that was beautiful and
Thank
so
you.
very fitting. Very, very, very fitting. So, are we being entertained, people, listeners? Are we being entertained and all of what comes with that? Off to La La Land, our souls being sold. Ooh, that was yes, that was beautiful. Beautiful. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes, yes. Love it. All right, so we getting hand claps, we getting hearts. If you all benefited from this conversation, let us know in the comments. I hope you did. Let's keep this conversation going. Because it is an important one, and let us be healed. Let us be whole. So please, uh, connect, get involved with the community healing circles, find out how you can be a trainer if that's something that you're interested in, and especially if you are gifted or skilled with holding space for people and facilitating, and have a desire to do some of this work. So I thank you so very much for this conversation tonight. I definitely benefited from it. I know that's a little selfish, but I hope that the rest of us did, and that we will again really tap in, because I'm telling you all, family, we are really going to need community now more than ever before. Now more,
Absolutely.
and so we have got to find our tribe, find our village, and really, um, you know, hold on tight because I think we are about to really be in for a ride. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you very much.
You are so very welcome. So, for those of you who may be new to the platform, I definitely invite you to subscribe to Conversations with Nicole. We are here live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The focus is on mental health and wellness, especially in Black and Brown communities. And we are encouraging folks to be their best selves by utilizing counseling, therapy, coaching, all of the things that will make you better in a healthy way. And community healing circles is one of those examples. So let's again, please share this with somebody, because this is really something that we need to be doing for ourselves individually and collectively. Thank you again, Dr. Huberta. I appreciate you so much.
Oh,
And
thank you. Thank you very much.
indeed. All right. And we will see you all later. Have a good night.